country with our partnerships and our team. And our model is really a membership cluster of diverse stakeholders that are connected by strategic programs and services and investment. Next slide. So before I get into, thank you, Katrina. Before I talk a little bit more about what we do, let's talk about what we include in natural products. So we're really focused on naturally derived products, solutions, and technologies that originate from a biological molecule. And this encompasses many sectors from nutrition and natural health products, biotech, clean tech, waste streams, basically anything that is more or less non-digital. So as I said earlier, we have a national focus and a regional presence. So we have a small team of 9 across the country with experience in innovation, scale up, commercialization, investing, finance, and research and communication. Next slide. We have a whole host of partners and network across the country right now, and you'll see this in the next slide. We've got about 2,000 stakeholders within our network, but our most formal relationships are with the 6 organizations on the top of the slide. These are our industry association partners and research institution partners across the country, and the majority of our staff are actually sit in the office of our partners. Next slide. We have only been around since September 2016, and in that time, we've had over 2,000 connections with strategic stakeholders. We have 800 opportunities in our pipeline that we have assessed in some way. We have invested in 13 Canadian companies, 2 exits, and we've enabled our companies to leverage our investment over 7.5 times. Next slide. So as most of you probably know on the call, Canada has a lot of assets, including natural resources. We have really great research expertise. We have lots of provincial government support, and we have a global reputation for excellence and clean and natural products and technologies coming from Canada. So where our challenge, and this comes as no surprise, is that we are not really great at taking our research and our innovative products and technologies and getting them on the market. So in late summer, last fall, we started what we call Canada's Natural Product Innovation Cluster. And really our goal, our longer term goal, is to have a 2,500 member cluster that connects these 5 member groups. And it's really based on the thinking that everybody brings something to the cluster and everybody gets something in return. Next slide. So for example, corporations give market access, strategic partners, and foreign direct investment. Investors bring private capital to the table, and research institutes and SMEs are a pipeline of innovative products, technologies, platforms, and facilities. Next slide. So what we hope people get from the cluster is corporations get a pipeline of innovations, partners, and expertise, and investors get a solid pipeline of screen deal flow, and again, partners and expertise, and SMEs and research institutes really have access to programs, capital, and advice. Next slide. So what the result of this should be is a pipeline of innovative natural product and technologies that get into the hands of the customers who want them, and then it also is opportunities for corporations and investors. Next row. Next slide, please. So NPC really is at the center of the cluster, providing leadership and strategic supports from a variety of programs and services, advisory services, commercialization programs, cluster building activities, innovation hub, and our investment fund. And I'll talk about those in a little bit more detail. Next slide. So for our commercialization programs and advisory services, so our programs are really designed to help SMEs and research institutes overcome some key challenges in their commercialization pathway. So our executive talent is really rounding out the executive management team and bringing in individuals that can help them achieve key growth milestones. Proof of concept is really validating your product or technology through preliminary animal, field, human, or demonstration trials. And the fast track to financing as I'm sure some of the investors that may be on the line is really know it's sometimes companies struggle with having compelling and solid business plans. So this allows companies to access external expertise to help them with a business plan or a key component of a business plan, like a regulatory strategy, commercialization strategy, et cetera. And our advisory services are really just providing advice and information to help SMEs and research institutes advance their commercialization efforts. Next slide. The Innovation Hub is really all about creating connections, fostering strategic introductions between SMEs and research institutes and corporations and investors. And we also do things like pitch events, either virtual or physical. And it's also providing market intel, both to our companies and to our larger corporations that may be interested in some Canadian activities. Next slide. So some examples of our Innovation Hub activities. Actually, we did a couple of open innovation calls with Cargill, which is more or less similar to the reverse pitch that we saw yesterday. We do virtual pitch events. And then we're also looking when things get back to perhaps normal, doing research industry meetups. Next slide. So our cluster building activities are really strategic initiatives that add value to one or more member groups. So it's really about collaboration, big picture, and knowledge sharing. Next slide. A couple of examples of our cluster building focus or activities include NHPs really developing a national working group around some of the challenges that the industry is experiencing. And insect protein is really of interest these days. So really forming regional working groups and really talking about issues like value and supply chain management. Next slide. And finally, our investments. So right now we have a small investment fund. We are in the process of raising a larger fund. We currently invest up to $500,000 in a company, usually along with investment partners. We have had 2 exits since we started 3 years ago, and we are still waiting to add 1 more investment to our portfolio. We're just doing some final signing of the documents. So that is it for a quick snapshot of NPC and the Natural Product Innovation Cluster. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Shelley. And you're right, you're a fast talker. You go through slides really well. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, there's no worry of me ever putting anybody over behind schedule.
Awesome. So I do have a couple of questions for you, and it actually relates to some of the questions that came in earlier as well. But first of all, can you speak a little bit to the exits and to the companies you're working with there? How was that facilitated? What kind of markets are they addressing? Who do you partner with?
So our first exit and a really great success story was Maza Innovation in BC, and they had a clean extraction technology that allowed you to take value added ingredients out of plants. We led their last investment round of $3 million, and then they were acquired by Sensient Technologies based in the US for $20 million US. But the nice part about that is all of the facilities and staff remain operational in BC, and that's the company's plan. So it'll allow Maza to grow at a much more exponential rate.
Great. And can you also tell me a bit more as how do you engage with the investor groups, as part of the pitch events? And is it corporate investors? Is it, typical private equity, or are they international, local? Can you paint a picture?
It's a mix. It could be, it's all of the above. And I can't give you a percentage mix of, it really depends what the topic is at hand, but we usually get strategics, institutional investors, angels, PE, it really varies.
Amazing. That's really helpful to know, because I'm sure there's a lot of people on this call who might have, looking for pre-seed or even Series A or Series B investments and need exposure to those types of investors. So your cluster is doing a great job there. Can you speak?
We obviously we evaluate companies for our own investment portfolio, but if it's not quite a fit for whatever reason that may be, we will try and make sure that the company gets introduced to other investors.
That's great. And does it matter whether they're pre-seed or Series A, or are they typically earlier stage?
Yeah, so that's a really good point. I should have mentioned that we invest in early stage in the what is commonly referred to as valley of death. So most of our companies that we invest in are pre-revenue and are usually doing probably their first capital raise of around $2 million. So with the second fund that we're raising, we're hoping to participate in initial rounds of maybe 5 million and then follow-on rounds of 10 to 15 million.
Okay. That's really helpful. I can see, there's a question that came in earlier for the investment panel about de-risking and how to bring the ecosystem together around innovation, technology, and process. And I can see NPC as the example in terms of de-risking. Would you say that's true?
That is exactly what we are trying to do, is to coordinate the ecosystem so that we can help de-risk investments by referring the companies to the right people at the right time. And then our commercialization programs are totally designed to de-risk investment. And I'll give you an example. It's not necessarily a circular bioeconomy example, but we had a company called Partake Brewing. It's a brand, it's a non-alcoholic beer, and they needed a VP of sales to increase to hit their sales targets. So we funded them through that program. And that VP of sales within 6 months increased their sales significantly. And then we ended up investing because they could demonstrate that they had traction in the marketplace.
Wow, that's a great story. And one more question for you, and how do you engage, I guess, with the forestry innovation sector? Because we have a lot of forestry kind of related companies as part of this discussion, and some agriculture as well. Is there anything we could do as an ecosystem to connect in with you a bit better? What would you like us to do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, the connection between Foresight and NPC is a good start. And we actually just hired a regional director, as we call them, in Quebec, who has a strong forestry background and has been in that space. So it's a really good addition to the team for us, because it will now enable us to use his network to better connect with this space.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. And Shelley, if people want to get in touch with NPC, what should they do?
They can go to our website and reach out to people directly, or feel free to contact me directly, and then I can refer them to the most appropriate person on our team.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I should also highlight that Natural Products Canada has an exhibitor booth as part of the Hoover platform. And if you want to go there, check out some of their work, that would be great. And yeah, feel free to connect with Shelley on the chat, or even with their team. I'm sure all their contact information is available on the website, which I just saw was posted in the chat. Thank you, Monica. Unless Shelley, you have anything else to add, I can wrap up.
No, just thank you again, and Katrina, good luck with your new adventure.
Oh, you know what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be working on the circular bioeconomy in Southwest Ireland. I'm staying true to the subject matter.
That's so exciting. Well, good luck.
Thank you. So I hope to facilitate lots of international relations and continue the conversation with Canada on this topic going forward.
Well,
so
we're absolutely game for more international connections. So please put us on your list.